Hello and welcome to Rick's RC Flying channel. Now in this video, I'll be showing you some of the scale detailing that I'm going to apply to the PL12 air truck. It's received basically its final coats of primer, been sanded with 320 grit sandpaper, and now I'm applying the detailing such as the panel lines and then later on riveting. Now with respect to the panel lines, these black lines will represent those panel lines. Now it's a tape. The tape is called Chart Pack. It's basically a graphic tape. You can find it at arts and crafts stores or even on Amazon for that matter. Comes in different widths. And the one that I'm working with is 1/16 of an inch wide. It's very easy to apply. Now, even if you're, dressing up a standoff scale airplane, it's quite effective to put panel lines on, and you can just work in reference to a photo and generally plot them where they look like they should be. Or if you're mimicking a scale project in terms of you want the panel lines to be where they should be with respect to the real airplane, then you would have to plot the panel lines. Now, depending what your reference points are, there is a bit of a math involved in plotting it, which we'll save for another video. But generally what I've done is I've plotted my lines with a very light pencil line so I know where to apply the tape. Now the tape is very easy to apply. I'll just show you here. Now, so you want to start off with a brand new X-Acto blade, and wherever you have your pencil line, you take your tape, place it over, rub it down, and then you'll trim the ends. You'll have to hold one end and just snip, and snip that off. Now make sure you really rub it down good. That's very important, particularly before we start applying the primer again. Now, in some cases, if you want, you can leave a little overhang if you know during the spraying process that it's not going to interfere. That's only to facilitate removing the tape. You can grab it and pull it off. It's just that much easier. But when you obviously have panel lines that end at specific points, then you have to trim it off. And so again, it's very simple. Don't apply too much pressure because we don't actually want to hurt, the surface of the model. Make sure you rub it down really good. Now what we're going to do is get the airplane into the spray booth, and I'll show you how I'm applying the primer. The primer, generally speaking, is just going to be applied over the panel lines. I'll be doing a couple of coats, and almost when it's cured, then I'll be removing it. And basically, you'll see the way I remove it is just taking an X-Acto blade and very carefully lifting it up and then pulling the tape out. After that process, then all the riveting will be applied where it appropriately has to be on the airplane. I'm just going to show you the setup I have in my spray booth here. So here I have the regulator, and temperature in here now is 74 degrees, humidity 27, which is really good. And I use 35 psi for this spraying project. I'm using just a small airbrush. That's just a test bed. And these two filters are for air intake, and the bottom filter is exhaust, which I have a very powerful explosion-proof exhaust fan at the other side of that. So since I'm using epoxy paint, I'm going to be using a full face mask. And always make sure before you actually start spraying that you have an idea how you're going to manipulate the model. So I plan to do the bottom first, then support it on here, and then I'll be able to rotate it and do the rest of the spraying. Okay, so let's get it started. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to remove the tape. You take your X-Acto knife. Now, This one I started to take off, but it looks like, yeah, it goes underneath this one here. So we're going to have to take this one off first. Just take your X-Acto knife and just lift it up gently. Pull it straight up, not at an angle, just straight up like that. Then we're going to take this one. And the same thing, this line here goes on top. So we're just going to be careful. We really don't want to touch the surface of the model. Okay, there we go. We take that off. Pull this one down. Oh, well, that one already grabbed the other one, which is convenient. And we pull it off. There we go. That's how easy it is. And you can see the panel lines. This is 400 grit paper, which is the way I end up doing the final treating of the fuselage. It was done with 320 before I put the tape down. And then you take your 400 paper because there is a slight ridge. The fact, of course, that the thickness of the primer that I applied, particularly epoxy primer. So we just take it, lightly go over it. And there we have some panel lines. It's that easy. And of course, the next step is now to put rivets along the panel lines, but you get the idea of the panels. Now, again, as I mentioned before, if some areas look a little deeper, it's only because the primer is a little thicker there. So you just sand a little more of the primer off to get the right depth. So here we have a look at the panel lines. And at this point, I went lightly over with 400 grit paper. Some areas where the panel lines look a little deeper, just with some sanding, I will, get a consistent depth to it. Sometimes you apply a little more primer in some areas, but that gives you an idea of the lines. Okay, so we're going to take a look on basically how I apply the rivets. This is just your typical syringe. The plunger base goes to the palm of the hand. These two fingers are positioned here. And it's these two fingers that control the plunger pressure. In essence, what I'm doing is I'm pulling back like this, and that's how I control the glue coming out of the syringe and creating just the right size droplets that I want. So you have very good control. If you try doing it like this, it's just not going to be near as effective. So again, just put it in your palm, two fingers here. If you see any air inside here, then just simply start applying some pressure and squeeze it out there. You can see the glue already coming out. Okay, so now, and my syringe has a slight curve to it, so I have it kind of pointing down on it. Make sure the model is stable. And I have a pencil line here that I'm following, and we're just going to start applying the if one doesn't turn out the way you want, with a damp piece of paper towel, you just wipe it away and do it over again. You can always go back as well. Sometimes if it's not the right size to your liking, you can still add a little glue to it. So it's that simple. Now these dots look kind of big, but what I like about canopy glue, when it dries, it actually flattens out, and then it really resembles the look of a rivet. So that's all that's to it. It's very simple. It does take some patience, but it does add to the model's looks, no doubt. So I'm going to recap on the products that I've used on the air truck up to this point. Now, there's many different ways of finishing the model. I mean, in the modeling world, every modeler has their preferences, and you can do everything in so many different ways. Now, I'm finishing this model in epoxy paint. However, it is an electric airplane, so one could say that's overkill. I like the epoxy finish because it's incredibly durable. I mean, I have airplanes over 30 years old with epoxy finishes, and they almost look like new. Now, it's an electric airplane, so you could finish it in latex, dope, whatever you want. Now, the primer that I used is made by Glasscoat, and it is an epoxy primer, and it's number 55 white primer. Now, it comes in gray and black as well. As for the catalyst, I'm using white fast number 420. Now, the reason they call it fast is that after you mix the A and B together thoroughly, then you can go ahead and spray it on, or if you want to roll it on or brush it on. As for the base coat, I'm using white number 100, and as for the catalyst, I'm using number 405, which is gloss. Now you can get it in satin and flat as well. Now, when the base coat is mixed together, you have to wait 30 to 40 minutes after it's thoroughly mixed before you can start spraying. The other thing I recommend is first always mix A and B together thoroughly, and then add your thinner and mix again. Now, when I applied the primer, now this can vary from spray gun to spray gun, I used 10% thinner. When I made the panel lines, I used 5% thinner. The base coat, I normally start off with about 10% and make adjustments if required. Now, when it came to making the rivets, again, there's so many different ways of doing it. I happen to be using canopy glue. Now, this one happens to be made by Zap, but there's other companies that make it as well, but it goes under the word canopy glue. One thing I like about it is the fact that it dries clear. So whatever your primer base is, because it's translucent, it kind of takes on that color. So you can go ahead and just spray your base coat on top. If your rivets, depending on the glue you're using, is notably a different color, you may have to put a light dusting of primer on top of the rivets again. The other thing I like about canopy glue is even though when you apply it, you'll see like what you might say, boy, those are pronounced little dots. But what actually happens with canopy glue, it flattens out. It dries within 20 to 30 minutes, and because it flattens, they really start to look like rivets. Now, you could use other types of glues. As I said, particularly aliphatic glues are good to use because they're water-based. If you make a mistake or you don't like the way that rivet looks, you can wipe it off with a damp cloth. Other primers, of course, you could use is like Rust-Oleum primer, and it comes like in different colors as well. And so that's basically where I'm at with this project so far. I'm going to apply the gloss base inside this cabin here so I can get the windows installed. And then I'll mask the exterior of the windows, give it the white gloss final base coating, and then think about putting the trim paint on it. But that'll be in forthcoming videos. So if you have any questions or comments, like always, I welcome them. And if you liked the video, please select like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.